You're listening to WUJP 91.3 FM Jam Pack Radio, Hempstead, New York.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's another episode, and I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and everything like that. And, sometimes these episodes are going to run a little different, you know what I mean, because I'm taking it actually by the people, and the time frames are different. They're going to be sort of jumping around a little bit, telling the story, but check it out. I have a great one tonight, and it's Jahna Sebastian. And she's over in London, and I met her actually through a publicity agency that I was working with out of New Jersey and New York. I should say New York. But it was just so great meeting her through the business aspect, and then we became great friends. And technically, I never met too many females that knew anything about the recording studio. And when I got the call about it, as far as her producing and writing and engineering and the whole 9 yards, when she says she does everything, she does everything, And I was just floored by how much she knew. And it's not the fact just because she's a woman, but the fact that most women are interested in the technical aspect of the industry. And then when I met her, it was just like, boom, we clicked. And everything just went into collaboration and friendship. And the whole time, I've built this whole platform, for the most part, with the Jam Pack Magazine radio show. She has been on here from the duration of the time that I've started it. So I definitely have to give her plugs, and, all the things that she does in fashion and whatnot. She is just awesome power and an awesome talent. So I'm going to take you right to her. And we just actually did a Zoom meeting because, once again, we recorded this during the pandemic, so we couldn't get together, of course, because sometimes she comes back and forth into New York and London for fashion weeks and stuff like that. So we weren't able to connect in that way. However, we did get to Zoom, so check it out. Jahna, what's going on? How are you doing?
Oh, hi. I'm doing great. I am just in my studio, Multivision Music.
And it seems like we're both learning, huh?
Oh, yeah. Every time there is a learning curve, every time there is a way to try something new, and every day is an opportunity to be able to do that. And especially when you are talking to other people, when you are meeting other people, I think that is experience to look forward to.
Well, I think it's the bomb. I think it's the bomb, the fact that both of us are on the same page when it comes to setting up the streaming television and, the streaming radio. And, we kind of like building our own independent network. And it's very unique because
I don't think a lot of people, I mean, there probably are a lot of people that are thinking about it, but then there's probably a lot of people that aren't thinking about it in the way that we're trying to. You know what I mean? I think everybody have their own way of utilizing the technology.
Yes, definitely. I would say that I am definitely the person of our times because I was born and raised in the times when the world was transitioning from the analog into the digital.
Right.
And of course, now we are on the crossroads of history where we have to answer many questions to where the world is going with all of this and how it can be helpful to the humanity. But at the same time, my childhood literally came about in the changing moments of that revolution. Because when I was little, this was still a time of VHS and just the beginning of the video games and the computers, and the personal computer was something very new and something very fresh and something very, very privileged to have. And most people didn't really have that in their houses. It was something magical and interesting, and it was the time when people would you would have friends that would come around into your house just to be able to play on the computer. So then my teenage days came about at the beginning of the digital production, but at the same time there was still the conversation between the people who would be fans of the analog world and who would say that no way they would move into the digital. And those who would say no, but there is progress and we can try out different things. There were also people who would say, how can you just replicate the famous synths and compressors and EQs that would have cost like thousands of pounds or dollars before?
I was one of those people.
Right. But I came about into the generation that was growing up within that. So when I was 13, it was the time, I think, the changing time for that. When I was 15, I came across the software like Fruity Loops 2.5 and some other pieces of software, some first versions
Reasons and stuff like that.
Reason was only starting, was just about Propeller Heads has just started something. I forgot what it was, but I think it was something to do with the synths, the classic synths, and then only Reason. Then only Reason came about as well. So when I started production and getting into it, that was the time to get into the digital creation straight away, because I was 15. If you can think about it, I could not afford going to the studio. I didn't have enough money myself. But I found out that I have a computer, I have a personal computer, and wow, I can make music on it. And I found out on the internet, with a dial-up internet at the time, where it took half an hour to load an MP3 file. And so my time has been coming out of the very, very old school way of listening to the vinyls in my very early childhood, to the fairy tales on the vinyl, to music, Michael Jackson albums.
But you know, I still tell people, I still tell producers though, in my experience, not to lose that ear for that though, because if you know how to produce that sound and get that sound, it's eclectic. It's hard to get it back. So if you were ever trying to produce a record that came close to, like you just said, that had a, say like a Michael Jackson mix, you needed that crispy mix like that. It's good to have an ear to know how to do that though. Still, I still say
I agree. I agree. I would say that what helped me was my background in the live music environment as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I started out playing in the orchestra when I was 7 until I was 15 years old. So playing in the orchestra helped me analyze the environment and people playing together, playing live instruments to the audience
Mm-hmm.
in different places and different halls, and how all of that comes together. So putting that into the software environment where you treat every plugin as an instrument that could be played live by a person, even if it is just a synth sound,
Mm-hmm.
that was really helpful. And that is what I've been taking into my production. And another thing is also, I started out playing with bands and live bands before I moved into full-on professional production.
That's
Before
true.
I was making the beats
Right.
myself, I engaged with live bands, with real people, drummers and bass guitarists and
Right.
guitarists. And so I would produce them,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would write the songs,
And you know
and
how
we
to
would
create the
jam.
sound. You know how to create. You know how to create the sound from the instrument, as opposed to
Yes.
stuff
So
that's stock sounds.
yeah, so that was very helpful in a way that when I started making beats fully on the computer by myself, programming everything, the drums, the bass, the keys, everything, I would always have that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
of this kind of human touch.
Mm-hmm.
How would it give the groove? How would it be played live if I was to then give it to the band to play it?
No,
Because nothing can replace.
you're one of the 1 in a million rare
Mm.
female producers that know that much like that. I mean, you're like rare. I'm serious. I mean, it's like you're rare. I mean, you have female producers, but they know how to produce their vocals or the song or something like that. But I mean, as far as you're like right there where Missy Elliott is. You know, you could come into the studio and just like move out of the way, get out of the way. I'm gonna start moving the buttons and everything. So it's that's that's great that you know that, because I'm telling you, it's a lot of female artists that don't have a clue about stuff like that at all. Period.
Well, the thing is, it's very technical.
It is.
It's very demanding in terms of learning again, and the knowledge that you have to acquire every day. I have, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I have, I have so many different magazines and books on production. I watch videos. I always try to expand my knowledge on the gear, on the new software, plugins, on everything that's out there, and the new techniques to produce. So I've been trying to make every possible genre that I can. And I like to listen to different kinds of music. So some of the tunes that I make, they are house, some of them are trap, some of them are soul, hip hop, R&B, drum and bass, jungle, you know, pop, everything.
Exactly.
And I've even worked. So yes, and sometimes I would program guitars and strings, and people can't tell the difference between them and some kind of live strings. They think that I booked in an orchestra or something. But the reality is that I'm just usually going with the flow when I'm inspired, and then I just put that feel, that touch into it. And then also I do know the engineering side. And again, I have moved over the years and over the time with within different versions of software and equipment. And what really happened is that I know how to tweak the sound, and I know how to create the sound from scratch. I've worked with Logic, Cubase, Pro Tools, Reason, Native Instruments. So once you know the basics and how everything works, then you can
All
always
programs are
just
pretty much the same.
and try out new things. But definitely the editing and the engineering side is something that I had to build on over the years, as well as just the production. So I am definitely a
Well-rounded.
producer, singer, writer, arranger, musician,
Hmm.
and all of my albums, as you know, they are fully produced, written, recorded, arranged, performed all by myself.
Right.
And when I first started working on The Alchemist, that was a challenge
Hmm.
for myself if I can do it. And now I definitely am moving in that direction. I plan on making more albums. So I've released two, and all of them were done by myself.
Hmm.
And um, it's not that I don't want to collaborate with people on the albums. I
No,
do love collaboration. I've worked with
no,
many
I
different
get it.
people, but it's just the vision. Yeah, it's just the vision that
It's
I'm
just
trying
the
to.
vision that you're trying to get out, and that's, I get that all the time, Jahna. I mean, I get a lot of people that say, "Man, you just want to control and do everything," and all. I'm going like, "No, it's not." I said, what it boils down to is that when you're learning something at the same time you're creating,
Mhm.
and I think when you're learning something while you're creating at the same time, especially with this digital era, it tends to put you in a situation to where you want to be a little bit more isolated. You don't, because you don't want to make mistakes while you're collaborating with people, because you don't know how much time they have to really dedicate towards it. See, everybody's work ethic is different, and that's kind
Mm.
of the reason why. Because me and you, we might stay up for 10 hours just looking at Zoom, you know, messing around with it, where the other person will probably get frustrated on the other end and quit. You know, I've just never been like that. I've always been the kind of person a researcher. I've always been the kind of person that liked to be educated on technology and stuff like that. So I think you kind of have to have that knack to want to do it and to pursue it, and have the time for it. I think that's the key, is making time for it, and to really sit down and just focus and get it. It's just like going to school. I mean, it really is. Just like going to
Yeah.
class. It really is. So
Yeah, and also you have to be passionate about it.
yeah, you do.
So a lot of people just want to play music, but maybe they are not that interested in the sound engineering side of it,
Right,
because it requires a lot of knowledge in maths and physics, and a lot of calculation, understanding how the sound waves are bouncing from the walls,
right.
how the sound is going to expand itself when you're performing it uh, on a stadium,
Mhm.
or in the car when you're listening to it, on some small speakers, on how it's going to be played on the radio.
Right.
All of that you have to take into consideration, and that requires a lot of understanding in terms of the physics of the sound and how it lives.
Especially editing, because editing, you're really dealing with a lot of knowing when the beats are gonna fall, like you're on the upbeat, the downbeat, you know,
Mhm.
and it has you kind of have to edit out a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in the room sometimes, and you got to know how to get that out and all that kind of stuff. So it's very technical. It's very technical, and an average person, and like I said, you're like my female alter ego. I swear, it's like I met my match. I told a person this. I said, I think I met my match as far as on the female side. That I've never met a female that could do production that well like that. I mean, like,
Mm.
that's independent like you. And then when I started listening close to your productions and stuff like that, where you were doing them, and I was going like, I was very, very, very impressed, very impressed. And it's like you're getting better. It's not like you're getting better, because I'm starting to hear the real instrumentation more than the computerized part of it. Because I think we all go through that. We want to deal with the stock sounds that we have available, but
Yeah.
then when you finally get how to set up your studio the way you want to, now you know how to record those real arrangements. Because I have a lot of people come in and I just do nothing but record drummers. Sit there and they just play for a couple hours and I record them just playing. Because if I want to use a sample, I want real drums. I don't want fake drums. I hate it.
Mm.
I hate it. It just doesn't sound right.
Well, I use the drum samples and I play them through and program them. But again, I do it in such a way that you wouldn't tell the difference
You wouldn't tell
between
the
that
difference, right?
I'm playing it.
Mhm.
So I'm having that in mind. And of course, I mean, a lot of people would prefer to have tens of people in the room in the studio. But for me personally, for example, this time of the lockdown was not much different in terms of the creative part
Mhm.
of making the music to what I normally do on a regular basis when I'm actually producing my own stuff, because usually it's just me
Right,
alone in
right.
the studio.
Me too, yeah.
And I don't like people sitting there and watching or just
Me either.
having a drink on the couch and talking to me and watching.
It's
I
distracting.
don't like that.
Me either.
So,
It's very distracting. I don't.
so I would say that it's a very geeky profession. It can be, and
Are
it
you
can
calling
be
me a
quite,
geek, Jahna? Are you calling me a geek?
I am a geek, so it's a
I'm,
good
I'm
thing
a
to
geek. I
be.
guess we're geeks.
It's a good thing to be, I think, a
Yeah,
geek, especially in this time.
right, right.
Um, and I would say that I think the everyday situation for a producer engineer is not much different from this self-isolation during the lockdown. Most of them would be usually in the studio for 10 hours straight
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
more sometimes.
So
And
we're blessed to kind of be in a situation, where the economy slowed down and it allowed us to kind of really get in here and do something new, something different, explore something different, actually, because had not, say, this pandemic had happened and we were available to move around, I know I would probably be on tour. I know I'd probably be out trying to perform instead of sitting here learning this. Right now the Zoom, is the thing now. So, but there's a reason for everything, and I'm just kind of glad that it happened, because and then we're able to work together under the same, regime here, which is great. And the fact that you're over in London and it's international, it's even better because now I'm really learning how to use it, and it's just excellent. I mean, because like I can feel free now to do a track, and if I wanted your ideas and your mix, I feel comfortable with just dropping the mix on you and say, hey, Jahna, can you mix this for me? I feel comfortable with you doing that,
yeah, definitely. I think the platforms that are available right now allow people to connect
Mm-hmm.
all around the world in any place or location, which really helps the creative side. And I think as long as people are open-minded to work with new people, to meet new people, to see new people, the world becomes a very small place.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a good thing about that. In fact, I was really happy about Instagram introducing Instagram Live a while back, because I could do a similar kind of thing. I could talk to people from all around the world, and sometimes I would even go to, when I would go to New York or another city, I would call some people back in London or anywhere else and have a conversation with them live and then post it on my platform, Alchemist TV.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really good way to connect. And
It is.
especially
really
now,
is.
it's very important to have that human connection,
Mm-hmm.
because when people are around the world trying to figure out what's going on and how everything is happening, the key thing is to come together and see how everything can be pulled through